be reassured in who you are and being able to speak about yourself, there's a way to really put it together very nicely with a bow. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Have Breakfast. I'm your host, Jaden Liz. This year, I'm trying to get myself out of my comfort zone. I'm trying to do things that challenge me, that make me think differently. And one of the biggest ways that I'm trying to do that is through networking and meeting new people. In general, the pandemic has really shifted the way we approach social situations. I'm certainly someone who's a little bit more outgoing, but the pandemic really affected my social skills. I don't want to say it necessarily hindered them, but I am now in a position where social settings can make me feel awkward if I don't know who's going to be there or if I know anyone or what we're going to be talking about. And especially as someone who works from home, I have limited FaceTime with people on a daily basis. So my time spent in person with people is really intentional, and I'm typically only around people that I'm already comfortable with, are friends with, have like that sort of understanding of like, okay, like if it's quiet, we don't have to just fill the space with talking. Like we are organically meshed together versus going to a setting where I don't know anybody. I don't know how to talk to people. I don't really know what we're going to talk about. It's a lot easier to put myself in a situation where I'm comfortable versus being uncomfortable. And we're leaving that in the past. This year, we are going to be more confident. We are going to be able to walk in a room and be the most confident person that's there. We are going to be able to work the room and speak to people not just to say hi, but actually have a conversation. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of how to build that confidence up, let's talk about some of the things that may be holding you back. Let's be real. We've all been in situations where we think, are these people judging me? What do they think of me? Are they going to be texting their friends on the side like, who the fuck was that? Some of the common social anxiety triggers can be wondering what other people are thinking of you, just overthinking what the other person on the end is perceiving, fear of running out of things to say, awkward silences. These are some of the limitations that could be holding you back from building really authentic connections and being confident when you walk in the room first thing, versus loosening up as you get to know people a little bit better. So instead of approaching the conversation from, what is this person thinking about me? Think of it instead about what you can offer to the conversation. What can you add? What value do you have? Let go of some of those limitations that are holding you back from really engaging in the moment. Our own self-confidence is at play here too. It might be what you're thinking of yourself. This is going to hold you back if you are wanting to be more social and meet new people this year. You cannot allow your social anxieties, some of those triggers or worries that you have, to hold you back from putting yourself in the scenario. You don't know until you try, so don't let some of these beliefs you have of yourself hold you back from actually going to the thing or actually introducing yourself or seeing someone cool in the room and being like, wow, I really want to meet them. And instead of going up to meet them, you just sit there and wait for something to happen. You have to allow yourself to step a little bit out of your comfort zone and go for the opportunity. So once you kind of unpack what's holding you back, that's when you can start to step into a more confident version of yourself. So here's a few tips you can try out at the next event you attend to build more connections and be more confident in person. Preparation for this is key. And it might feel a little bit silly, like, what do I need to prepare for? I'm just going to talk to people. But the more prepared you feel for it, the more comfortable you'll be when the time comes. So one of the ways you can do this is through research. Research who the guest list is, who's going to be there, where you need to park, if parking is going to be a challenge at all, what attire you should wear. Anything you can kind of do to prepare mentally to step into this space. Also, if you are someone who does have social anxiety and you feel like you're going to run out of things to say, think of 3 to 5 discussion points. This can be discussion points about yourself, discussion points about current events, things that are going on in your life, hobbies that you may have, anything that can bring an intriguing edge to your conversation and something that will engage the person on the other end of the conversation. You also want to go into this knowing how to explain exactly who you are. And don't let that sound scarier than it really is. You want to be able to articulate clearly and quickly who you are, what you do, any key relevant points about yourself. So this will really help when people ask you the question, what do you do? Who are you? Tell me about yourself. You have something ready and able to go into all of the details and very concisely. So this is a good time to pull out your notebook, take a second, and think through what are the top points I want someone who just met me to walk away with. I just did this for myself because I really struggle to put all of the things I do into one brief little way of being like, this is who I am. Because I podcast, I create content, I'm a full-time publicist, I am also planning a wedding. It's like word vomit. And instead of just rambling and going into all of these different things, there's a way to really put it together very nicely with a bow. So make an elevator pitch before the next event you attend to be able to explain who you are. While you're having these conversations, you also really want to pay attention to your body language. This is not the time to appear standoffish. As someone who has RBF, and I do, it is strong. You can read every emotion I'm feeling by the look on my face. I've been told this many times by many people. So if you are maybe not as engaged as you would have hoped in this conversation and you are looking to escape it instead of going stank face and looking like you're not interested, try to put on a smile. Avoid RBF as much as you can. This goes for whether you are actively engaged in a conversation or you are standing around the snack table, you're waiting for someone to talk to, whatever it is, just try and look appealing and pleasing. And if you are not having a good time, we can talk about that a little bit later. Carrying yourself with an open posture, having your chin and your shoulders up high feels a little bit more inviting than a slouch. And it's hard, but it takes practice. So start practicing now. When you catch yourself slouching, start to, lock yourself in a little bit. And over time, it'll feel a little bit more natural. But when you are at social events or at networking events, you do want to appear a certain way. And so instead of having to proactively find people to talk to, more people will start coming to you because you look approachable. When you feel moments of pause or you're not actively doing anything, maybe you're sitting at the table waiting for dinner, try to avoid just getting on your phone to fill that space. It is uncomfortable. It's time to start sitting with that uncomfortability instead of just hopping to your phone every time you feel a little bit of angst. If there are people around you, there are people to talk to. If there are things happening, there's things for you to go to. When you're going to social events and your goal is to connect with people, you have to be a little bit open-minded and be able to put yourself out there to be a little uncomfortable. So even if you are not talking to somebody or you're waiting for someone to talk to you, you are not going to look more approachable by being on your phone or sitting there scrolling. It's okay to check in every once in a while, but if you need to truly be on your phone, excuse yourself. It's sending a certain kind of message that you're not interested in what's happening. And you never know who's watching. It could be the people that are putting on the event. It could be someone higher up than that. You never know who's around. And so you are, in these situations, you are trying to make a good impression. So I would highly recommend putting your phone down as much as you can. Eye contact is something people talk about very openly as this is the best way to connect with people. Just maintain eye contact. That will help. It will make you more engaged in the conversation. It might not feel as comfortable right away, but when you're making active eye contact, you are able to listen a little bit better because you're really trying to hear what's happening. Let's walk through a scenario where you met someone at this event, you're easing into a conversation with them. You want to be as active as a listener as you possibly can be. Really listen to what the other person is saying. Ask them questions that are related to what they're saying. It's one thing to interject and, relate to what they're saying, but let people talk. Give people a second to get out what they're trying to say. I'm someone who gets really excited when other people are talking, and I want to show them I'm listening and relate and throw everything out there that's oh, me too. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been there. I've done that. Let them talk. Let them have a moment to say what they need to say. Take it all in, process it, and assess whether that's the time for you to offer up, yeah, I've done that too. I can relate. There may be another opportunity for you to circle back to that, but if the final point they leave off on has nothing to do with what you really wanted to talk about, allow them to have that moment. You are also going to have a moment to talk about things you're excited and passionate about too, and you would want the same respect and feel like the person on the other end is also listening to you. So give them that moment, listen to them actively. Part of that is also understanding how to read the room. When you're speaking, you also want to be mindful that you are engaging the other person as well. You don't want to take up too much space in the conversation, because then the impression they'll leave with is, wow, that girl really likes to talk about herself. Like, that's all I remember is like, we only talked about them. So it's really important that you share your passions, but you make sure you're having a balanced conversation and keeping them engaged as well. If you feel like it hits a dead point, maybe it's time to exit the conversation. It's also important to know when to exit and do it gracefully. We've all had those moments where we met someone new, we got introduced, and now we're just kind of standing there waiting for someone else to say something. Like, you feel like you've done all the talking you possibly can do. That's a really good point to further the conversation at another time. So you can say something like, oh, it was really great to meet you. Do you have social media? Do you have an email I can contact you at later? Depending on the setting, like if you're at something a little bit more social, less like professional, maybe social media is great. If you're at something professional, LinkedIn or email address is great. It's a way to validate that, yes, this was a great connection, but I'm going to continue moving around the room. Understand when the moment is gone, take their information down, connect with them later, and maybe you do have something blossom out of that. But if not, you made a new connection, and that's great. I think the biggest thing is understanding that this is not supposed to be perfect. Be yourself. Understand that mistakes are going to happen. You're going to stumble around your words. There's going to be awkward silences. It's okay. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. It's even okay to say, I'm a little rusty. I haven't been to one of these in a while. I am used to working from home. I'm used to XYZ. Like, being transparent, being yourself is always going to get you further than trying to fit into a box that you don't fit into. Go into it with an open mind and be yourself, so you can have some good conversations. Over time, this will come a lot more naturally to you. At some point, you'll look back on this and say, I can't believe I used to be uncomfortable going to these things, or I used to not have the confidence that I do today. It's a muscle that you have to work. Social confidence is like any other skill. It's going to take some practice and a more conscious effort to engage in social settings regularly. So if this is out of your comfort zone, take this as a challenge. Sign yourself up for something that's happening in your city so you can get a little bit more intertwined and start doing more things that make you a little uncomfortable. Something that will help you do this more often is scheduling it into your routine. It will help you be reassured in who you are and being able to speak about yourself, because you're doing it more often. You're telling people who you are more often. You're getting the word out about what you're doing and who you are and all the amazing things you're up to. And it's forcing you to think about those things. Oftentimes we're approached with the question, who are you? What do you do? And you don't have an answer and you don't know what to say. So start with your elevator pitch, sign yourself up for some social events, and schedule it into your calendar, because we're all about being more empowered this year. We're all about building our better selves. So being the woman you want to be starts with your confidence, and using these tips, you can definitely rock it. And I'm going to a social event here in a few weeks that I will recap on using some of these tips and telling you how it went, because I'm a little nervous. I'm a social butterfly, but I still feel out of my element when I'm around a bunch of people I don't know and have never met, and I have to talk. So I'm excited, I'm nervous, but I know that these tips will really help me feel a lot more confident.